Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Piqued number 13. I'm your MC, Corey Luna. On AV is Rich Hogben. And tonight we feature musical artists Xibalbá and Malarki. We're going to have a performance from each of them tonight, and then we'll have a group interview where we'll also field some of your questions from YouTube. So let's all give a warm digital welcome to Xibalbá.
Hi. Hi. Thank you for having me.
Of course. And of course, Malarki. Welcome.
Hello.
We're all looking forward to listening to some great music with you guys tonight. And I gotta say, I apologize for not getting the video out a little earlier this week. I posted, I know, like this afternoon, but I think it kind of reached out to everybody pretty well.
Yeah. Thank you for that.
Of course. So let's hear a little bit about what your setups are going to be like tonight. So Xibalbá, give us a little bit about what you're performing with tonight, and then Malarki, let's hear the same from you as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I'm gonna be playing two OPZs, mixing them. So yeah, just that, two OPZs, a mixer, two iPads, and the music.
And what apps are you using in your iPads?
It's the OPZ app. Yeah. I haven't mixed it with any other ones. just because it's a little wonky and it works very differently from other devices. So it's kind of hard to mix it with others.
And so I'm curious about with your OPZ, since you're using two of them, what's controlling what between the two?
How do you mean? So the reason that I use
Well,
two
I'm curious yes.
is because
I,
so you can make lots of songs on one OPC, but you can't transition from one to the other in a smooth way. So I need two with a mixer so that I can blend in to the next track. Otherwise, I have to stop and then start the next.
Okay, very cool. I haven't had the chance to, as I spoke earlier, I haven't played around with an OPZ or an OP1 yet myself. So, and I think you're the only artist I know of that I've ever spoken to that uses two at the same time. So that's it's really neat to learn about today. Now,
Yeah,
Malarki,
well,
tell
when
us a little
things,
bit.
yeah.
Course. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I was
Malarki,
gonna say
please
when
tell
things
us.
gets back to normal, come over and I'll show you how to use it.
I would love to. That would be fun. Now, Malarki, tell us a little bit about the modular setup you have tonight. What are you using?
Tonight it's a Eurorack set. I tend to rotate between gear and different sets. Reason being was that I have some new music coming out pretty soon, which we'll be talking more about soon. And I wanted to perform something that's kind of in the same sonic space. This one's going to be a bit of a mix of dark ambient type material and some faster paced material. It's very soundscapey. It's kind of fun. I'm using the new noise engineering reverb for a part of it, which gets into some pretty interesting territory.
I'm looking forward to hearing that. That's a neat module.
Yeah, it has some pretty unique sounds to it.
And your new album, is that going to be coming out on Aerogrid?
Yeah, it's called X7E4, and I'll let you Google what that means. And it will have a more formal announcement sometime pretty soon, but it's not that far away. And follow Aerogrid on Bandcamp and Instagram to keep tabs on it.
Very good. That's really great. So I was curious also about how did you two, when I asked you to do this performance, what came to mind and how did you approach composing your piece for tonight?
Well, it's been a crazy year. So I've been just composing a ton of music, not releasing a lot, just trying to, because I'm still learning. I haven't done this for very long. So just trying to make as much music as possible and get good at it. But yeah, it's sort of like the set tonight is a little, it has dark parts and happy parts. So it sort of represents the roller coaster that we've been through.
It's gonna be. I think we can all relate to that very much right now. And I think a lot of music that a lot of us are all producing at home is very much emotionally related to that topic. And Malarki, tell us a little bit about how you approached this performance tonight.
My original thoughts were to do something that involved a couple more instruments, and the heat wave just made that idea seem too ambitious, so I decided to simplify it a bit, and I'm staying within the Eurorack setup this time. It's definitely a response to the recorded work that I just finished. That work is much more aggressive and fast-paced and consistent. It's definitely a reflection of when we are. This is as well, but gets into some more calm places, because when I structure live sets, I like to have parts of the set be more calm in nature and some parts be faster, some parts be quiet, some parts be loud. I like to make a bit of a longer arc that flows together.
Very cool. We're all looking forward to hearing it tonight. So, are we ready to perform tonight?
As ready as we'll ever be.
All right. Well, Xibalbá, if you're all right with it, let's start with you tonight.
Cool. All right. I hope you enjoy it.
What a wonderful set from Xibalbá. Thank you so much, Xibalbá. Everyone give her a nice digital thank you in your own personal way. And I'm sure all of us are feeling a very mellow groove right now. So thank you very much, Xibalbá, for that feeling. It was a really, really fantastic set. And now everyone get on the edge of your seat for a very cool performance by Malarki.
Hello.
Hi.
Yeah. Hi. That was great, Patrick.
Thank you. Yours was as well.
Thank you.
Do we have to interview each other?
Yeah, let's just do.
So tell me about your set and what kind of journey you had in mind compared to where it ended up.
Yeah, it was, well, there's always the uncontrollable handshaking that's not there when you're practicing. So I made a couple of mistakes. Like at one point, I forgot which OPZ was playing what. And then, I accidentally let go of a button that was muting the kick. So it's, but overall, I think it went okay. Yeah, I used a lot of samples from like old movies, classical music, stuff like that.
I think that was one of the questions, was where some of your samples came from.
Yeah. So YouTube. My nephew introduced me to this subreddit called Vintage Obscura. So I dig through there a lot and see if I can find anything interesting and just splice it in the OPZ and see if I can make interesting sounds with it. And usually something comes out of that. I'll make like a cool phrase and then I start building on top of that.
Are you very sample heavy in terms of how you build up sounds?
Not really. I mean, a lot of the songs tonight had strings. Mainly that was I looked for lots of musical pieces that had violins and stuff like that. One of them had a sample from Rimsky-Korsakov's Scheherazade. Another one from an old Mexican movie that I love. Yeah, so when you hear them, the OPZ, you can also load it up with kicks and whatever you want. So yeah, sometimes I do that too. I try to keep it very simple because if not, it can be very messy when you're playing.
It's fascinating.
Let's pretend I was not asking questions and
I want to thank Malarki for taking over as host today. I couldn't be there.
Thank you, Patrick.
Anyway, yeah, and did we get to your musical influences, Xibalbá?
Yeah. So I like the artists I listen to the most: Bonobo, Dodd, Throwing Snow, Young Cook, Rodhad. So a lot of techno, some house. I love classical music, so I try to incorporate that as well. But usually, I try to make things that make me go like this, because I like to dance. But yeah, if I can come up with like a melody that's soothing or that makes the hairs on your arm kind of stand up, then I know I've got something to go on.
Very nice. And keep on. Dylan Sang would like to know if your OPZs are synced.
No, so it's very manual. This whole they are synced, but I have to manually set them up. Like select the track that's going to follow the first one, and make sure that because throughout the track I'm turning things on and off. So I gotta make sure that it's all set up so that when I get to the track I want to play, to the pattern I want to play, that it's muted correctly, that I can just not even think about it and start turning things on. But the syncing is you have to set it up and then turn them both on at the same time, hit play at the same time while one is muted on the mixer. And yeah, you just gotta be careful with that, because if it's not exactly right, then it's gonna sound awful.
nice. And let's get a question in for Malarki.
Mm-hmm.
Malarki, we'd like to know a bit about the musical influences you have.
I found that a lot of what I draw from musically is having grown up playing music. The oldest instrument that I played was probably around age 7. We kind of got one of those old school electric organs kind of forced on us by an uncle-in-law. And I was the member of the family who took organ lessons and learned how to play it. So that kind of steered me into a keyboard direction for a while. And then I played violin in an orchestra, and I did that. And this was in through school, did that for probably 6 years. And I wasn't really consciously aware of this, but I found that a lot of my arranging and use of dynamics is really heavily inspired by that. Just having played a lot of either classical pieces or modern classical or film score work at that time, where those things are there, and I'm kind of connecting those ideas into more abstract sound design now. But how I arrange movements, or how I called back to the early bass tones at the end of this one. That's something that's very common in classical arranging. Played bass in a not so great band at one point. That really kind of drives the playfulness to the whole thing. That I put something that's playful in almost everything at some point. In terms of music that I listen to a lot of experimental electronic and modern classical, and a lot of that comes into play, but it's more subconscious. I don't sit down and consciously try to draw upon something. It's more so after the fact I'll realize, oh, I channeled that music there that I listened to 5 years ago, and that wasn't really something I was thinking to do, but it happens.
Very nice. And Lucky, what sequencer were you using for your set tonight?
On mine?
Yeah.
There was the pressure points, there was the voltage multi-stage, there was the zero control, there was the mimetic digitalis. These are make noise, verbose, and noise engineering modules. They were doing different things. They're all kind of synced together off the tempi, which is the make noise clock divider. But I find the different interfaces of them lead to different musical ideas. So I like to use the pressure point for kind of building up bigger, slower progressions, and I like to use things like the mimetic digitalis to sequence timbre, and the voltage multi-stage and the zero control are really great for getting off-grid timing. So you can do swing, or in this case, I had some things where I had accelerated timing in it. And the arrangement is kind of moving between those.
Wow, that was there's a lot more sequencers in there than I expected. That was quite fascinating. And Benjamin, oh, sorry, go ahead.
It's not a conscious decision. I start with just small ideas and say, where do I want this to go next, and what have I not taken over yet, and what's still available in the rig.
You handled it very well. It was very impressive.
Yes.
And Benjamin Izzo wanted to know, what is your slap bass guitar sample in there, or what module is making that bass sound?
There were a few bass sounds, but there's nothing that's sampled. I'm using the Mistron, which is a
I froze like this.
And that might be part of what's being heard. I also had some Erica Fusion modules doing some bass voices, and I can't remember. There's another one. Maybe it's the GPO. What ends up happening is when I practice this, I remember the performance modules and forget which ones were in the sound design.
Most definitely. Very cool. All right, let's get some more questions from the audience here. Got Next Expanse wanted to know, where was that? That was a good one, actually. You want to know if this, where did it go? I can't find it. Sorry about that. Will the noise eat the whole thing? I want it to. So much tension. And he was talking about Malarki's set.
It kind of got there.
That was a really good set.
Yeah.
I think so. There was actually a pretty interesting. It was a kind of the Persephora asked, "Can Xibalbá and Malarki do a Carmina Burana remix?"
Didn't they
I think
already
that
do
would
that
be
in the
fun.
90s?
Yeah, but he wants to hear the two of you do it.
Yeah, let's do it. I'm down.
I think that could
We'll have
be
it by
fun.
next week.
I was curious, what were your initial thoughts when I asked you to do Piqued? Like, I'm just curious to know a little bit more about, it's kind of going into your process. I know we discussed that a little bit already, but I was wondering, how you felt about doing this broadcast compared to doing the live show.
Well, yeah, so I don't know. It was so I always went to Piqued, right, when we had it in Soma, always in the audience, and I thought I'm never gonna do Piqued because I get too nervous, and then there's a camera on your hands, watching everything you do, and that's just like nerve-wracking. But at the same time, I felt it was a great opportunity to, challenge myself and compose a couple of tracks and try to mix them and then see how it went. But yeah, mainly it's just, getting my feelings translated through the music and then sharing it with others and try to get a reaction.
And Malarki, same. How did you feel about it between doing the live show compared to doing a stream?
One thing that, so this is probably my third or fourth streaming set. One thing that I've started to do different with streaming sets versus live shows is trying to make streaming sets a bit more continuous, because I know that when I'm an audience member of streaming sets, I'm often watching a lot of them and kind of multitasking through other things that are happening, and I want them to be effective in that context. The other thing that you miss on streaming is the physicality of sound. Sound, when you perform live, is usually at a high volume, and that has a physical impact on the listener, and that's something that's personally hugely missing for me. And also, as a performance tool, it's not something that we have right now. So think more in terms of like, where am I going to put frequencies of sound that I'm going to use? Hopefully people might have headphones on, but we don't really know that. They might be listening off of an iPhone speaker. So I think about these things differently. We have no idea what the setting of the audience is in this case. So I think more in terms of like, how do you make something that flows a bit more as opposed to something that has 100% attention.
Yeah, I resonate with that, with your response very much about compared to even about how the audience is going to hear it and what the setup is going to be like, the PA at the venue compared to performing at home with you listening onto a stereo system or headphones. Very good point.
Mm-hmm.
And Peter would like to know from the both of you, what are you thinking about during your performance tonight?
Don't mess up. No, it's just, let me try and play this as nicely and as well as I can, just as I pictured it in my head. So I'm just focusing on getting things right, and I kind of forget about everything else. I think like the cats were like all over the place, and I didn't even see them. So I kind of get tunnel vision, which is not great because then you're not paying attention to other things. But yeah, it's basically that. Get it out as envisioned.
Yeah, I remember you were, earlier today. We were talking about the cats might be, doing a little improv today, but I don't think they really did.
Oh well, they were over here, running amok. So I don't know if they showed up or not.
We could see them in the stream in the background, but But it was nice that they didn't actually get in the way of the performance, which is
Oh, I see. Yeah. Almost. One of them almost came over to my, to touch my iPad.
oh my god, that would have been crazy. And Malarki, same question for you. Like, what do you think about during your set, during performance?
Practice of sets is really important to me, and part of what I try to internalize when I'm practicing is what's coming up and what timing do I want to have on that. So it's sort of like, okay, what moment of tension are we in? What kind of feeling am I going for next? And what's the right timing to get there? So one thing that I really have to practice is slowing down and not rushing through material. And part of what's in my patch notes are some rough timing guides, and I have a timer that's running there. And I'm always thinking, okay, I have kind of like this beat in the whole composition that I want to hit around this time. Where am I sitting now, and how do I want to get there? Because I leave room for improvisation in getting from A to B. But it's kind of like I have milestones to hit along the way, and want to hit those so I don't run out of time or go way over. Because I could drag this out for 40 minutes or rush through it in 10 minutes in the same kind of journey.
That's right. I do the same when I practice. I time myself. Let's see this track, how long is it going to be? And should I make it longer, shorter? So yeah, so just practice a lot and then try to rise to the occasion when it's the real thing.
That definitely makes sense. You never want to rush through your set.
Sometimes I make arrangements where part of my patch note says, if I'm too far ahead, go back and repeat this section with this alternate variation to it. But a lot of it is trying to say, what do I want the audience to feel right now in terms of their point of perception, and how do I keep it unique in the journey?
That's a good note. Where is the journey going? That's one of the biggest things that I think about when composing any song.
Mm-hmm.
It's a journey. Where am I taking the audience? Is that something that? What else could you tell us about the journey that you think about when you write a song?
Are you asking me or Malarki?
Both, Malarki and Xibalbá. Whoever would like to field the question first. And how about
For
Malarki?
me, it's kind of there is some point to the whole thing, and in this case, it was kind of a in part deliberate. Say, hey, here's the style of music that I'm about to put out right now to kind of get people familiar with it, because I haven't let people hear most of it yet. And in part also what is the moment that we're in this week, because it's a very complicated year and every week is different, and it's in my mind, a very oppressive week with the wave and the fires happening and everything. So I was kind of mimicking that feeling and saying, okay, and then what is the release from this? The release from all of this is going to be pretty anticlimactic in that usually when we have wildfire season or heat waves, they just kind of peter out and there's no big, it's over event. They just kind of fade away.
So would you say that, Malarki, you were very influenced by your environment?
All the time. In fact, the first recorded music that I put out that's still available was entirely motivated by wildfires. Just the frustration of dealing with them that year. but other things play into it too.
Of course. And Xibalbá, same question.
Yeah, so I guess for me it was kind of like a lot of sounds that try to, you know, reflect uncertainty and then moments of peace and moments of excitement and then moments of darkness. I think yeah, when I was putting all these together, I kind of looked for samples that were, you know, kind of dark, just to reflect that peace. And yeah, the environment sure does have an influence on me. I'm very sensitive to it. You know, current events, all the stuff that's going on has affected me deeply. And instead of, you know, curling up in a ball and rocking back and forth in the corner, I try to like express it on with music and try to make those feelings of anxiety and all of that into something nice to listen to, maybe even beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, and I get that a lot from your music, with your wonderful melodies, and and yet you still have beats at the same time. It's really something powerful, and you're very unique sound you have. Something that I think most people really can't really put into a category, because it kind of goes into a few all at once. And
Yeah,
you've got a really good perspective.
yeah. People ask me what style of music, what genre of music it is, but I don't really know. It's not trying to be anything, but yeah, just a compilation of sounds that that reflect what I'm feeling.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think we all get that very much from your performance.
Oh, thank you.
I have no idea what genre I am.
Well, again, I think you kind of go into a few different categories, but definitely hear a lot of industrial in what you do. There's also some ambient in there.
Just
I know, and every time I've seen you, Malarki, do a performance, it's very brooding and hard at the same. But it's also got a good melody to it at the same time. I remember seeing you once perform at Resonant Frequencies, and your performance reminded me of Phantom of the Opera. So you've got, which is probably the classical music or modern classical music coming out of it, possibly.
There's actually going to be a small amount of piano on the new release I have coming out.
Really?
Yeah.
What else can you tell us about your upcoming release that we haven't discussed yet?
It's called X74. It's kind of a journey through a lot of emotional experiences from this year. It's actually based on some ideas that I sketched out a few years back. That's why piano kind of came back into it, because parts of it were originally written on piano, but then a lot of that got fleshed out and incorporated into it to kind of build a journey that reflects my personal experiences with everything that we've had this year. So there's moments of optimism, there's moments of what is going on, there's moments of chaos, there's moments of just kind of being reflective. So it's faster paced than other stuff I've put out before. It's faster paced than this set, but it also has some moments of uncomfortable calm, I would call it.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that release and purchasing that.
Excellent.
And Xibalbá, have you thought about putting any of your work out on an album?
Eventually, maybe in Q4, or early next year. I still, like I said, I'm still learning. I've been doing this for almost 2 years, and I mean, I have some musical background, very little. You know, I took some piano lessons when I was little. I took violin too, but not to the expertise of Malarki. And yeah, I'm still kind of sort of finding my voice and getting better at structure and all these things. I don't have any music out except for SoundCloud. SoundCloud is my sort of like my progress log. So if you go there, you'll see the earliest songs are really rudimentary, and then they kind of get a little better. They're not where I want them to be yet, but I hope eventually they will be. So who knows? I don't know. I have to really sit down and plan it.
Oh, it's putting an album together is definitely a very intense artistic endeavor. So I think we all look forward to the day when that happens for you, Xibalbá.
Thank you.
Already a large response here from everyone online. Watch the performance tonight. Really wanted to buy your album.
Aw, I'll yeah, I'll work on it. Aw, thank you. And I'm looking. Same to you for yours.
Thank you.
Yeah, likewise, Malarki. We all want to get your album too, and we're all looking forward to that album release date.
Cool. Tentatively before the end of the month.
Oh, that's fast. Good. Excellent.
Airgrid's been putting out a lot this summer, so.
Excellent. Yeah, we all need more excellent music right now.
Yeah.
And speaking of contemporary music, I know we've already discussed some of the influences out there that you both have, but I was curious about if there's any contemporary releases from maybe this year that have been noteworthy for you.
Let's see. Early in the year, Bicep came out with a track that was pretty cool. Bonobo just released a track. The hook is really good, and just the whole lyrics and the message that he delivers is really good. Yeah, I have a playlist on Spotify that I curate, and all my favorite music is on there. It's called the Frisian playlist. Frisian is the phenomenon that when you listen to something or see something and it makes the hairs on your arm stand up. So that playlist has all of the music that does that to me. So as soon as I find a track I like, I put it on there, and then I listen to the playlist all the time, and then I get my influences from there.
That's really neat. Now, Malarki, is there any contemporary music that came out this year that has influenced you or that you've been listening to a lot?
Earlier in the year, I was listening to a lot of the releases from Shasta Cults that came out last fallish on Important Records. The guy behind that, he is a synth technician, and he services a lot of old bukla and other instruments, and he started recording music on them as he was doing this. So they're fascinating in terms of sound design because some of the instruments are really rare, and you hear sounds that you don't often hear on either modern synthesizers or more popular vintage synthesizers. Recently, I've been going through listening to a lot of different material. Isn't one standout right now, but you can check my Bandcamp fan page to see what I'm listening to there. Or also, I have an artist playlist on my Spotify artist page where I have a bunch of things collected. I haven't really promoted it a whole lot, but it's there and has a collection of music that kind of stylistically influences me. It ranges from experimental electronic to modern classical. There might even be some popular songs in there. I don't remember. I kind of periodically add to it.
Cool. Oh, very nice. Now, well, thank you very much for giving us some more music to explore. As personally, there was an album recently put out by Control Voltage that was a very, very mellow, melodic album that I would say is, I thought it was a little bit different for him, because I think I always hear him go with kind of like a slight hip hop style to his work, and he went more with a more electronic with this current release he put out, and of course it was again very much influenced by what's going on in the world this year.
Everyone is, yeah.
Yes, I think that's been the main topic for all of us, which has been our response to what's going on in the world and how we internalize it and create art from it.
That's right.
Looks like we're going to see a lot of that happening continuously, and there's probably going to be I think we're going to end up remembering this year with a very weird nostalgia.
I think so.
I often wonder years down the road how much of this experience we're going to consciously remember. I often compare what we're going through to what my grandparents who lived through the Spanish flu epidemic went through, and they never really talked about it. They were kids when it happened, but it was not something that they consciously told us about. But also the monotony of everything means that we are having less unique experiences, and unique experiences are usually what define our memories. So for me personally, part of why I'm spending a lot of time on music this year is to find some unique experiences.
That's really amazing, because that your grandparents lived through that.
They were young kids, but still something that would be a formative memory of having that much happening around you at, say, 7, 8 years old.
Malarki, that's an interesting idea that I've thought of about the kids that are alive during this right now, and how this will affect them as adults, and from that experience, once our world gets a bit more towards normalcy, and children are able to go back into the schools, and what it's like for kids who are just starting school, but they can't go, and how they're going to grow up, and how they'll interact with people. Because it seems that a lot of kids these days are probably getting used to the technology that they're using to go into virtual schools, and it's going to be it sounds like it might be a weird transition once kids are allowed to go back into classrooms. And you being a dad, I'm curious about what's your perspective on that?
So I have a first grader who is just returning to Zoom school, as we call it. And she is becoming an expert at first we only let her use iPads, but now she's using laptops because she has to. And she is discovering things and teaching us things as well. It's also the fact that kids will try things. I often have her play with my music gear just to see where she goes with it. Kids are very uninhibited about their expectations. It's like, hey, let's just try this and see what happens, as opposed to having pressure on themselves about it. Which means they are more likely to discover things. And I think that this will result in some permanent changes in our society as a whole. I don't think the fact that we're doing so much of this virtual communication now is going to stick around. We'll return to working with each other together, but I think this component will stay part of it.
Yeah, I think this is going to stay with us for a while. Just the feeling of um, um, yeah, what Patrick was just saying. Every day feels the same. Every day is kind of like just the time is just like a big blob. Um, so this is definitely going to have an impact on kids, on adults, on everyone, I think.
I'll nominate you to be the interviewer now.
Another interview. Um, so tell me about your violin years.
So I played violin
Well,
through middle school and high school.
uh-huh.
I still have the violin. It's broken. The sound peg fell over at one point, but I kind of hold on to it for nostalgia reasons. It was one of those things where it was something to do that kept me musically busy, but it wasn't the most important thing. But then probably like halfway through the experience, which was probably 5 or 6 years long, I learned how to be disciplined about practice and putting care into it. So just the act of being regular about it and setting goals with it, because it became such a long-term thing, has influenced my ability to say, hey, I'm going to set long-term goals about everything now because I've been through that before. And like with music that I'm recording now, my thoughts are, what is the music that I'm going to put out soon, and where do I want to go next year with it? So those are both on my mind at the same time. And that kind of long-term thinking kind of grew out of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's incredibly difficult to play that instrument. Oh my goodness. Do you like the piano or the violin more?
Now piano. It's a different mode of expression. It's it's got like the way a piano will sound is actually fairly complex, but it's much more sparse in that the notes are not very sustained unless you tell them to be. So its default mode is a very staccato-like voice, which is very different than a lot of electronic music where we have sustained tones that we hold for a long time. And that means that you can have far more complicated melodies and harmonies with it. I've tried to do things like Western classical arranging with synthesizers, and it always sounds horrible because the sounds all start to clash with each other, especially when you get into complex harmonics.
Right. Corey,
Welcome
you're back.
Hi.
Hi.
I just got back from the Phantom Zone.
I hear it's nice this time of year.
It's cold. Please, I didn't mean to interrupt the interview there. So if you guys had a topic, please continue.
No, we were discussing Patrick's violin and piano playing, and yeah. Do you ever sample well, it's an old violin. You said it's broken, right? Yeah. But do you ever field record, do stuff like that?
I haven't used it in my music. I do it for experimenting. I actually have an idea on my rate. I have a cello, but I'm not very good at it. I have an idea on my mind for something I want to do with the cello, in which case I would probably record it and use it as samples.
Yeah.
It might be a next year project.
I like to sample things around the house. So like the washing machine, the fish tank motor, different things. The stove, when you're turning it on, it goes tick, 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 that. So I try to also put that into my tracks when possible. Yeah, I feel like it's so rewarding when you record stuff like that and you can come up with something really cool sounding. It feels very like it's your own.
I think we might have lost Corey again. So there's a question for Xibalbá. What
Oh
did
yeah.
what did you grow up listening to that sort of echoes in your compositions?
Oh wow. So when I was very young, um, I would say I don't even know what year it was, but my two older sisters uh, always, they always had the cool music playing, right? What were they listening to? New Order, Echo and the Bunnymen, Depeche Mode, um, all these bands from the early '80s, mid '80s. Yeah, and classical music. Classical music has always been there. It's just very formative. To this day, I listen to it all the time. We used to go to the symphony too all the time. But yeah, it's
Hello again.
hello.
Sorry, Xibalbá, you were talking. Please continue. I was listening.
No, I lost what I was saying. I forgot.
Oh, you're talking about what your sisters used to listen to, like
Oh, right,
Depeche
right,
Mode,
right,
things
right.
like that.
Yeah. Yeah, my oldest sister, she always had, really cool music, and then, but never really, purely electronic music, I guess. There were a lot of synths. And then the middle sister is the one that introduced me to electronic music. And she, from there it was like, oh, I love this stuff more than anything. Um, so, yeah, music was always there.
That's pretty cool. Well, before I do my next disappearing act, I think we might want to wrap up this show. So, do we have any parting comments before I apparate again?
Just thank you for having me. And yeah, I love Piqued. It's a great show, builds community, and, gives us a platform to express ourselves. And yeah, right now that's really important. So I really appreciate Piqued and all the other online shows that are happening during the weekend, and every once a month they keep me going.
Excellent. And
Yeah, thank
Malarki,
you, thank you,
do you have any-
thank you, thank you for having us both. I always saw Peaked as among the Bay Area shows as one that was really good at pulling in a broader local audience, and it's great to see it come back in this format, and happy to contribute.
Xibalbá and Malarki, thank you so much for performing tonight. It was a real pleasure to talk with you both today and to feature you on Piqued. It was a real treat. So thank you so much. And I want to thank everyone who was on the live stream on YouTube, asking questions. That was really wonderful, everyone. Thanks so much for joining. And we'll see you next month in September, where we've got beer and to be announced coming up. So stay tuned. You'll see us on Instagram when we have a full roster to perform. Have a good night, everyone. Stay safe.
Good night.
And stay indoors. Good night.
Good night.
Bye.